Hi, friends. I have a question for you today. So, what is worse than the proverbial elephant in the room? Well, in my opinion, it's going to be the elephant in the room that's wearing camouflage so that you don't see it, but everybody else in the room can see it but you. So, this is Gina, and I welcome you to my channel, Hope and Cope, where we talk about how to live our best life according to God's will, in spite of the painful and tragic choices of those that we love. So, my topic today is about unforgiveness. So, when we have unforgiveness in our hearts, so oftentimes other people can see it as a result in our life and we are oblivious to it. So, I kind of likened it to that elephant that would be wearing camouflage. So, it's big, it takes up a lot of space. Everybody else knows it's there except you because you can't see it because it's wearing camouflage. So I know that's a little corny, but that is kind of the way unforgiveness in our life works. So it impacts us, it changes us, and everybody can tell but us. They might not actually know what's made us change, they just know we have changed. But more than likely, in the condition that we are in, the fact that we are living with someone else's tragic lifestyle choices, we very well could have some unforgiveness that we are carrying, that we are not processing in a healthy way, and that it's actually changing us for the worse. So, through the years, I have heard a lot of different unforgiveness analogies. I don't know if you've heard them, so I'm going to share them with you. So, one is that unforgiveness is like poison that we drink and we hope that it makes the other person die or sick. The other one is it's like a vest that you wear full of dynamite or explosives, and you wear it because when that bully comes around and pokes you in the chest, it's going to blow their hand off. Well, it's going to hurt you worse than it hurts them, right? And then let's see, another one is, you won't let that person that has hurt you off the hook. They're on the hook, but you're on the hook with them. And until you let them off the hook, you can't get off the hook. So it's kind of an analogy that as long as that person you won't forgive is on the hook, you're just both on the hook. Or you can use that analogy in prison. As long as you've got that person in prison, you're in prison as well. So I hope that those analogies help you kind of have a perspective about unforgiveness and how that affects us. It really is life changing, and it really does cause us to have character defects that we don't recognize. So we want to try to address our unforgiveness to the fullest extent of our ability. So let's talk about a couple ways that unforgiveness changes us for the worst. So I know it affects my sleep. I know it makes me bitter. It makes me cranky. It makes me judgmental. It makes me critical of others. It makes me on a pity party, very self-interested and self-defensive, right? But then that's kind of self-defeating as well. So we always feel a little bit like the victim in the situation. So it just doesn't have any good qualities. I mean, somebody might get on here and argue that maybe sometime in their life they felt like they needed unforgiveness. But I'm just going to tell you, for the most part, you can get from point A to point B without having to get angry and unforgiving. And it's a lot better for your mental health, and it's a lot better for your spirit. It's a lot better for your other relationships. So unforgiveness is just really not helpful, and can be a lot more harmful than we think. Sometimes unforgiveness in our own hearts can make us really insufferable. It can make us so uncharitable, so irritable, such a chip on our shoulder that we really can't get along well with others, and we just don't even know it. Now, I realize that people in our position, and I don't know your specific position. Um, for me, it was my husband's late life addiction. We had been through 24 years of marriage without any substance abuse that I know of. And then it came into our marriage in our mid 40s. And, was quite tragic for us, for our, kind of teenage children. And so I know that when you get severely hurt, it changes you. I kind of know, even though I have tried to let go of unforgiveness, I've tried to let go of bitterness, I've tried to let go of I wish it were, talked about that last week, try to let go of, all the things that I feel like I've been robbed of. I still know that that time in our life changed me. I'm not the person I would be if we had not taken that long detour around. I just know it has. But what I can do is try to still be the very best person I can be. Um, it is now part of me, but I don't have to let it make me an awful person. I don't have to let it make me a bitter person. I don't have to let it make me a victim. I don't have to let it make me hateful. All those things that unforgiveness can do in a person's life, it can wear on your expression. Have you ever noticed, you see people and they've just got that really, really hardened, weather worn, weight bearing look on their persona, so that you can tell they've carried a heavy burden for years and years and years. And I just would like to talk today about how maybe we can try to let go of unforgiveness. What I think you know, but in case you don't know, I want you to know that forgiving people when they have harmed you and probably have not apologized, maybe they're not even sorry, or if they are, they keep it a good secret. Um, but unforgiveness doesn't mean that they didn't do something wrong. I mean, forgiveness, I'm sorry, forgive me. Forgiving people doesn't mean that we say you didn't do me any harm. It doesn't mean that we act like it didn't happen. Quite the contrary. We can really address the situation and take it head on and be frank about it. Um, so we don't have to pretend it didn't happen. We don't have to pretend it didn't hurt. And we don't have to pretend it's okay, that we're just going to get over it and we're just going to uh, move on and never address it again. It doesn't have to mean any of those things. But forgiveness is not for that other person. It is for ourselves, to set ourselves free, to not let the things that another person does affect us and harm us in the decisions we make, or in the life choices, which I guess that's the same thing, the decisions we make, or the way we let things wear in our brain. So if you don't want to constantly be worrying about or burdening your mind about things that have happened to you from a specific person, or at a specific time, or over a specific event, if you don't want to let that continually harm you, then my best advice is just to forgive. If you forgive something, like I said, it doesn't mean it's that your wound is not legitimate. Quite the contrary. It just still means that you are taking care of yourself, that you are doing what you need to do to rid yourself of any lasting pain, any lasting harm that that person could inflict upon you. We don't want that person or those people or that time frame or that huge event to have any more power over us than it already has. And the only way that I know that we can do that is through forgiveness. Forgiveness. When we choose to let the past be in the past, when we choose to say, I'm not going to carry that stuff anymore. My life is too valuable. My future's too important. my state of mind, my well-being, my mental health, my sleep, um, my joy, all those things are way too important to me for me to let you ruin it. See what I mean? It's all about shifting your mindset. Um, I want, the truth is, the people that have harmed me in the past, I want them to never get a speck of mental uh, real estate in my head. I don't want them to ever have that. I don't want to give it to them, for heaven's sakes. I don't want to give it to them. I don't want to every morning wake up and it's in my mind, it's on my heart, and there they are again. They've moved on. Maybe they've even moved out of state. Maybe they've even died. Or maybe they've got Alzheimer's and they don't have a clue. But every day I'm letting it take up mental real estate in my mind because I can't let it go. So we have to learn to let it go. I know we've talked about unforgiveness before. I know that you've tried. I know I've tried. I know we have heard other people say to forgive. It helps you. It sets you free. I know that. And boy, I know it's just a lot easier said than done. It's just a lot easier said than done. And we'll try to forgive. We'll try to wipe the slate clean. And then something will happen and it'll bring that wound back up. It'll bring that offense back up. It'll bring that tragedy. It'll bring that betrayal. And it'll hurt all over again. And it's terrible. And I hate it. I really do. And sometimes I still put up with it. And the best thing I know to do is just take those thoughts captive. Pray. Ask Jesus to help me to forgive. Ask him to help me to realize that that person is just a human being. And that it's possible that they are just a very, very sick individual. And that if they were not sick, maybe they would not have done the things they've done. Or maybe they've been wounded also. You know, a lot of times people that do things in their adulthood, tragic things happen to them in their childhood. And so we can just choose to say, I don't know why that person would do what they did. I don't know why that person would betray me. I don't know why that person would have hurt my children. Or, you know, it's just terrible, unthinkable things that people have done. Terrible and unthinkable things. But the more we can learn to let the past be in the past, don't let it come into today. You've got a new fresh day, a new fresh horizon, a new future. You can be free and leave that thing in the past. And it's so important for your own well-being to do it. I'm not saying this because I know that person that hurt you and I want them off the hook. Quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. I'd like to see the people that have done wrong pay for it. You know, honestly, I'd like to see the perpetrators pay for it. But you know, if we give those things to God, then he is the perfect judge. He has perfect timing. And he will, in his right way, in his right timing, he will address all the injustice in the world. That's the injustice that I've done and the injustice you've done and the injustice that's been done to us. So, you know, we have a good God, and he's very fair and he's very just, and he wants us to live in forgiveness and leave justice and vengeance to him. He is the only one that is worthy. Please listen to me. He is the only one that is worthy of meting out justice or punishment. Because I too have created offense. I too have hurt people. Maybe completely unintentionally. Or maybe never, ever, ever in the ways I've been hurt. But you know what? I know I have still fallen very, very short of God's perfect idea for me. I don't like to think about it. I don't like to sit in that realization. I like to think about mercy and grace and the way God covers my sins because he loves me. and I'm made right through the blood of Jesus Christ. Those are the things I like to think about. But the truth is, I have fallen very short. And if I spent very much time thinking about it, I would cry because I have fallen very short of God's holiness, of His idea of perfection, or His idea of brotherly love. I have fallen really short. And so, falling short is falling short. We don't get to judge and say, well, I'm not as bad of an offender as that addict. I'm not as bad of an offender as that thief. I'm not as bad as an offender as that adulteress or adulterer. And but all of it has to be judged by a righteous judge. And the Bible says that the way that I forgive is the way I'll be forgiven. So you know what? I want to be forgiven lavishly. I want to be forgiven with buckets and buckets and shovels full of mercy and grace and kindness. And I'm going to need every bit of it. I need every day, every bit of it, every bit of mercy and patience and kindness that our gracious Heavenly Father has for me. I need it. I need it. And so I just want to remember every day that I'm not the perfect judge. I will judge harshly. I will judge incorrectly. I will overjudge some and underjudge others because I'm not the perfect judge, but God is. So if I can learn to let things go and learn to just put them in God's hands, learn to realize that that person is better in the hands of a loving and just God, a righteous and holy and perfectly just God. That's where that person is at their best and not in my care. I would mess up so many times. I just know I would. And it's really not a job I want because I'm so imperfect myself. But yet when we're hurt, we want to hold that hammer, don't we? We want to hold that guillotine. We want to hold that, whatever it is. We want to hold the power over that person and wield unforgiveness. But if I can promise you anything, you're really mainly hurting yourself. And I'm not saying that if somebody loves us and they've done us harm and we hold unforgiveness that we can't hurt them. We probably can. We can probably hurt them. We can make them sad. We can drive the knife in deeper and make them really pay. But I'm just afraid that we're hurting ourselves way more than we're hurting anyone else. And I just don't want that. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. I want us to live our best life. I want us to live in complete freedom. Whatever they've done, they don't get to have any power over me. I just shake it off. Whatever they've done, they can take that up with God. They can take that up with their own conscience. They can take that up with their ability to sleep at night or not. Because they're not going to be free of it. Maybe if they're narcissists, I think I got that diagnosis correct. Maybe if they're narcissists, they really don't think about how they've hurt people and they really can't, and they just can't penetrate past their own selfishness. But most people have a conscience, and most people probably really grieve over the injustices that they've done and the wounds that they've caused. And I know that, like for instance, in my own life with my husband, who did a lot of things to hurt my children, his family, our church, his mother, his father was passed away, his own siblings, and me. Not to mention his own integrity, his own legacy. I am sure those things are very, very hard for him to bear. I do think he tries not to think about it. He has apologized. There's nothing really he can do to make amends. I think he could do a little better, but I don't know. See, he could try. Maybe he could try more, and maybe it wouldn't do any good. I don't know, because I'm such an imperfect person that maybe no matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't be enough, because he can't undo the past. He can't undo the past. And because he can't undo the past, it's just best to leave it in the past. For good things for that person. When you pray for a person, I know you've heard this before. If you haven't, then let me be the one to let you know that if you pray for people, it's really hard to hold unforgiveness against them. I pray for, I don't have any enemies, to be honest, but I pray for people that have hurt me. They don't even know I'm praying for them, but I pray for people. The people that have hurt me are on my prayer list, and I try to pray for them on a regular basis, and that does help me to not let that root of bitterness grow, and to be able to, if I face them unexpectedly, it helps me to be able to address that and just handle that with grace, because I'm already every day doing the business. I'm already every day taking care of the work that I need to take care of, to keep my heart right, to keep my mind right, to keep everything cleaned out in there so that it's a fresh space that's not full of bitterness and resentment and hatred and unkindness. I don't want to operate out of that. Now, I don't know, maybe you do not mind operating out of that, and you feel like that gives you some of your strength. I don't know who you are and if that's true. Maybe it's true for you, but that never feels like strength to me. Anger, uncontrolled anger, hatred, unkind words that I can never take back, they don't feel like power to me. They feel like surrendering my character to my worst flaws. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to surrender the characteristics, the moral character that I want to have. I don't want to surrender that to the person that I love the least, loves me the least, and cares the least about my integrity. I don't want to give that to them. I want to be the person that I want to be, the joyful person, the gracious person, the person that's always got a hopeful thing to say to anybody, no matter how awful their situation is. That's the person I want to be. I want to always be a lifeline, always be a lighthouse. I want to always be a ray of hope for people. And I don't want to let the worst side of me, I got it. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have it. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't have that side. But I don't want to let that side rule me and be what people see and what people know and how people judge me. And to taint my character. That's just not what I want for myself. I hope that's not what you want for yourself. It's not lovely. It's not of good report. It's not positive and kind and gracious. And all those things I just said, maybe in your mind, those are very weak characteristics. And if that's true, I'm very sorry that that's how you perceive those characteristics. But in my mind, the world needs a lot more kindness and a lot more graciousness. I am not saying a lot more doormats. I'm not saying the world needs a lot more people that won't stand up for themselves. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying when we let unforgiveness taint us and make us into a mean and bitter and resentful human being that no one else can bear to be around except for other mean and hateful and bitter human beings. And that's who you'll find yourself surrounded by. And that's just not where I want to be. That's just not where I want to be. And I don't want the people that have hurt me to have the power to make me be that person. So I hope you don't either. I hope you want forgiveness for yourself. For yourself. Set yourself free. Set yourself free. Be free. Be free of unforgiveness. I know it takes prayer. I know it takes time. I know it takes redirecting your mind. I know it takes looking into the future and not letting yourself dwell on the past. I know it's not easy, but it's worth it. And you don't want to have an elephant in camouflage that follows you everywhere and everyone can see it but you. So I hope this was helpful, and I want you to know I'm praying for you. And until next time, God bless.